Beyond Eden's gates, in the raw, red dawn of the world, a shadow fell, not from a beast or a storm, but from brother to brother. This is the first story of blood, the first cry of jealousy, the first mark of guilt. Welcome to Bible Tales TV. Step onto the cracked earth outside paradise. Smell the smoke of the first altar. Feel the weight of the first stone clutched in a trembling hand. This is Genesis chapter 4, not just as scripture, but as a living, breathing nightmare of ambition, rage, and divine reckoning. We bring you the mark of Cain, a sibling's shadow, a tale where divine favor ignites a deadly spark, where blood soaks into cursed soil, and where the cry of the victim echoes from the ground itself, where the first murderer builds the first city and unleashes a legacy of violence that still haunts us today. This is the origin of envy, the birth of exile, the foundation of fear. Listen closely, the ground has a story to tell. The sun, a molten disk new to the sky, baked the red earth outside Eden's shadow. Adam and Eve, their faces etched with the memory of paradise lost, watch their sons. Cain, the elder, muscles corded from wrestling the stubborn ground, knelt beside rows of vibrant green, emerald lettuce, deep purple eggplants, golden melons bursting with promise. His offering wasn't just produce, it was his sweat, his defiance against the thorns, his triumph over dust. He carefully arranged the finest fruits, the most perfect vegetables, on a flat stone altar he'd painstakingly shaped. This, he thought, this labor, this beauty I coax from nothing, this will please him. Nearby, Abel younger, quieter, moved with a different rhythm. His hands, softer but skilled, selected the firstborn of his flock. A lamb, its fleece impossibly white against the ruddy earth. The air grew thick with the scent of wool and animal warmth, then sharper as flint sparked. Fire caught dry tinder, licked hungrily at the wood Abel piled beneath the stone altar Cain had built. The lamb's bleat cut short. The smell changed again, acrid smoke, then the rich, almost metallic scent of roasting meat. Fat hissed and spat onto the flames, sending greasy spirals into the sky. Cain watched the smoke from Abel's offering rise straight and true, like a pillar reaching for the heavens. His own smoke, from the small fire he'd lit beneath his vegetables, sputtered and twisted, dissipating weakly. A coldness settled in his gut, colder than the dawn. He looked at the Lord, or where he felt the Lord's presence, a pressure in the air. Nothing. No warmth, no acknowledgement. But towards Abel, Cain felt it. A shift, a focus, an acceptance radiating towards his brother. Abel's face, lit by the sacrificial fire, glowed with humble gratitude. Cain's own face flushed hot, then drained of color. His jaw clenched until it ached. Why? The word screamed silently in his skull. My offering was perfect. My labor is harder. Why favor the blood? The sun climbed higher, merciless. The rejected offering was a stone in Cain's soul. He stalked away from the homestead, the image of Abel's serene face and the pillar of smoke burning behind his eyes. He walked without seeing, feet kicking up puffs of dust that clung to his tunic. The field stretched before him. His field wrestled from the wild. He stopped near a stand of young wheat, its stalks still green. He picked up a heavy stone, feeling its rough weight. It felt good, solid, real. A shadow fell across the furrow. Abel stood there, concern softening his features. Cain. His voice was gentle, tentative. Brother, the Lord spoke to me. He said, if you do well, you will be accepted. If not, sin crouches at your door. Its desire is for you, but you must rule over it. The words, meant as comfort, were kerosene on Cain's smoldering rage. He speaks for the Lord now? He presumes to lecture me? Cain saw not his brother, but the embodiment of his own rejection, the favored son basking in divine light while he toiled in shadow. The stone in his hand felt like an extension of his fury. The green wheat whispered in a sudden breeze. Rule over it? Cain's voice was a low growl, unrecognizable even to himself. Rule over it happened faster than thought. A surge of black energy, pure and hot, propelled him forward. The stone, heavy and brutal, arced through the air. Abel's eyes widened in shock, then confusion, then terror, a fleeting instant. The sickening thud echoed across the empty field. Abel crumpled, lifeless. Onto the earth he had never tilled, his blood a dark, spreading stain on Cain's precious ground. The white fleece was suddenly crimson. Silence crashed down, broken only by Cain's ragged, panicked breathing. He stared at his brother, at the stone in his hand, slick and red. The fury vanished, replaced by a yawning, icy void. What have I done? The sun beat down on Cain's bowed head. Abel lay still. The blood seemed to pulse, soaking deeper into the thirsty soil. Cain couldn't move. Shock held him frozen, the enormity of his act settling like a suffocating weight. Then a presence. Not warmth, not acceptance, but an overwhelming, terrifying focus. It filled the field, pressed in on Cain from all sides. He felt smaller than an insect. A voice, vast and resonant, shook the very air. "Cain, where is Abel, your brother?" Cain flinched as if struck. His mind raced, scrabbling for lies. He couldn't meet the voice. He stared at the blood-soaked earth. I do not know." The words tasted like ash. "Am I my brother's keeper?" The defiance was hollow, pathetic even to his own ears. The silence that followed was heavier than before. Then the voice came again, not louder, but cutting deeper. "What have you done?" "The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." Cain's knees buckled. He fell forward, hands sinking into the dirt, Abel's blood mingling with the soil of his labor. The accusation wasn't just words. It was the ground itself bearing witness, the very earth beneath him screaming Abel's name in a silent, terrible chorus. He heard it, a low, mournful thrumming rising from the stained soil. And now, the voice declared, judgment final, "You are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a wanderer you shall be on the earth." The curse landed like a physical blow. The ground itself, his source of pride and identity, had become his enemy. It would reject him as God had rejected his offering. Fugitive, wanderer. The words echoed. Panic, cold and sharp, sliced through the numbness. "My punishment is greater than I can bear." Cain cried out, his voice cracking. He finally looked up, though not directly at the presence. The vast, terrifying world beyond the field suddenly seemed filled with unseen eyes. "Behold, you have driven me today from the face of the ground, and from your face I shall be hidden. I shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." Who was he afraid of? His parents? Other children, yet unmentioned? Or something older? The fear was primal, absolute. The Lord's response held a terrible mercy. "Not so. If anyone kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold." Then a sign. It wasn't described, but it manifested. Perhaps a searing heat on Cain's brow, a sudden mark visible only to others, a palpable aura of warning. Cain felt it settle upon him. Not protection, but a dreadful brand, a deterrent, a constant reminder. And the Lord put a mark on Cain, lest any who found him should attack him. Driven by terror and the mark's invisible weight, Cain fled. Eastward, away from Eden, away from the accusing field, away from the presence he could no longer face. He wandered through lands untouched, under a sky that felt alien. The curse held true. Where he tried to dig, the earth resisted. Roots snapped, stones multiplied. He was an exile. But Cain, son of the first man, inheritor of a spark of creation, was not broken entirely. Fear curdled into a desperate, driven energy. Years later, in a land called Nod, wandering, he stopped. He looked at the wilderness around him and saw not desolation, but potential. If the ground rejects me, I will build upon it. With relentless will fueled by guilt, fear, and a fierce defiant pride, Cain began. He gathered stones not for violence, but for foundation. He shaped the earth not for seed, but for walls. He built the first city, and he named it after his firstborn son, Enoch, a monument to survival, a fortress against the terrifying openness, a defiant scar upon the earth that bore his brother's blood. Within the walls of Enoch, life, fractured, complex, inventive, flourished. Cain's lineage became builders, creators, and bearers of a shadow. Generations passed. Enoch begot Irad. Irad begot Mehujael. Mehujael begot Methuselah. Methuselah begot Lamech. Lamech, a name that echoed with a different kind of hardness. He took 2 wives, Adah and Zillah. Through Adah came Jabal, a restless spirit who looked at the plains beyond the city walls and saw not danger, but opportunity. He became the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. He mastered the open spaces Cain feared. Jabal's brother, Jubal, heard music in the wind, rhythm in the hammer's fall. He became the father of all who play the lyre and pipe, filling the city with melodies that could soothe or stir the blood. Zillah bore Tubal-Cain. He was drawn not to grass or song, but to rock and fire. He became the master of every craft in bronze and iron. His forge rang with the clang of hammer on anvil, shaping tools that could build and weapons that could destroy. The city grew stronger, louder, more complex under the shadow of Cain's mark. And Zillah also bore a daughter, Naamah. Her name meant lovely, a grace note amidst the burgeoning industry. But the shadow ran deep. Lamech stood before his wives, Adah and Zillah. His eyes held the hardness of forged iron. He spoke, his voice carrying the arrogance of generations removed from the primal curse, yet inheriting its violence. Hear my voice, you wives of Lamech. Listen to what I say. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for striking me. If Cain is avenged 7-fold, then Lamech 77-fold. The boast hung heavy in the air of Enoch. It was a declaration of self-made justice, a multiplication of the violence Cain began. The mark might protect from others, but within Cain's line, the blood cried out anew. Far from the clamor of Enoch, far from the blood-soaked field, Adam knew his wife Eve again. The memory of Abel was a raw wound, the horror of Cain a chilling specter. But life persisted. She bore a son and named him Seth. For God, she said, her voice trembling with a fragile, desperate hope, has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. Seth grew. He was different. Not a tiller like Cain, nor a keeper like Abel. He carried a quietness, a seeking, and when Seth grew, he too had a son, and named him Enosh. Then something shifted. The scripture ends with a simple, profound declaration. At that time, people began to call upon the name of the Lord. In the shadow of Cain's city of bronze and blood, in the wake of Lamech's boast, a different sound began to rise. Not the clang of the forge, nor the boast of violence, but the tentative, hopeful sound of human voices lifted in invocation. Seeking, calling, reaching out towards the presence from which Cain had fled. The legacy of Abel, the murdered brother, wasn't death, but this fragile, resilient spark of faith, igniting anew in the heart of Seth. The story of blood and exile was joined by the first whispers of prayer. The ground might cry out, but now, so did the people. And so, the blood of Abel seeped into the earth, crying out for justice. Cain wandered beneath the mark of divine warning, building walls against a world that now hunted him. Lamech's boast echoed Cain's violence 77-fold, while far away in the quiet shadow of grief, the name of the Lord was whispered once more, a fragile spark of hope in Seth. The first family, the first murder, the first curse, the first city, the first weapons of bronze and iron, the first song of lament, and the first trembling prayer. This is the legacy of Genesis 4. a foundation not just of Scripture, but of humanity itself. Raw, brutal, inventive, and searching. If this journey into the dawn of darkness moved you, unsettled you, or made you ponder the shadows we still carry, Backhand Index Pointing writes, smash that like button. It tells the algorithm ancient stories still matter. Ring the notification bell, so you never miss our next descent into timeless narratives. Speech balloon comment below. What echoes of Cain and Abel do you see in our world today? Is Lamech's boast still alive? This is Bible Tales TV. We excavate stories that shape the world. Until next time, tread carefully. The ground remembers.